Her voice was calm, too calm, like she'd practiced it in the mirror before dinner. "You won't get a single cent," my mother said, her hand resting on the folded will as if protecting it from me. The room was silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. My fork hung mid-air, dripping gravy. I looked at her, at the woman who had raised me alone after my father died, who used to swear I was her world. Now she looked at me like I was a stranger trying to rob her. I smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. "All right," I said, setting the fork and knife down carefully. "Then don't expect a cent from me either." I stood up, left the table, and never looked back. That night, something inside me snapped, and then settled. I didn't cry, I didn't shout, I just started planning. It wasn't always like this. When Dad was alive, we were a team, me, Mom, and him. He ran a small construction firm. I was supposed to take over one day. But when cancer took him, Mom changed. She remarried a man named Aslam 2 years later. A quiet man with kind eyes, or so I thought. He started showing up at the company office, offering help. Within months, the board meetings changed tone. I'd walk in and conversations would stop. By the time I realized what was happening, Aslam had already convinced my mother to transfer the controlling shares of the business to her for safekeeping. I was 25, naive, and too trusting. I kept running the company anyway because it was my father's legacy. Until that dinner. Until she told me I wouldn't get a cent. That was the night I understood something vital. Family can betray you deeper than strangers ever could. A week after the confrontation, I went to the office early. Her car was parked outside. That was unusual. Through the frosted glass of the boardroom, I saw her sitting beside Aslam, signing documents. When they left, I slipped inside. The papers were right there. Transfer deeds, power of attorney. Everything was being moved to Aslam's name. That's when I realized it wasn't about love or protection, it was greed. Cold, rehearsed greed. And my mother wasn't the victim, she was the architect. I didn't confront her. What good was shouting? It would only warn her. Instead, I started playing her game, but better. I met with our company lawyer quietly, a man loyal to my father's memory. We reviewed every contract, every clause. I found a loophole my mother had missed. My father's trust held a 40% minority share that couldn't legally transfer without my consent. That was my leverage. But I didn't want just leverage. I wanted to make her watch everything crumble. So I began to pull out. Slowly, invisibly. I stopped managing key clients, but made it look like business as usual. I transferred loyal staff to my new consulting firm under the radar. I left her and Aslam with an empty shell of a company. Meanwhile, I sent subtle reminders. A returned gift, a cold email reply, silence when she called. Let her feel the isolation she built. 2 months later, I executed the plan. The company was due for an audit. I leaked just enough information about irregularities to the press. The audit found false invoices, Aslam's doing. Money laundered through shell contracts he'd set up under my mother's approval. When the authorities came knocking, she panicked. Her calls flooded my phone, unanswered. The firm was suspended pending investigation. Assets frozen. I made sure of that. Then I moved in, legally, calmly. Using the trust clause, I filed for reinstatement of my 40% stake and assumed temporary custodianship pending review. The court sided with me. Within weeks, Aslam was charged with fraud and tax evasion. And my mother, well, she stood outside the courthouse looking small for the first time in years. Her fortune gone, her name tainted. The confrontation came 3 days later. She came to my apartment. No makeup, no pretense, just a trembling voice. "How could you do this to me?" she whispered. I poured her tea, just like she used to for me. "You did it to yourself," I said quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. "You destroyed your family. No, I said, setting the cup in front of her. You destroyed it when you chose him over me, when you chose money over blood. She stared at me, realizing, too late, that I had become everything she feared: cold, composed, untouchable. When she reached for my hand, I stood. Don't expect a cent from me either, I said, echoing her words from that night. Then I walked away. Weeks later, Aslam's trial made headlines. My mother sold her house to cover legal fees. I rebuilt the company, under my father's name, not hers. Sometimes I wonder if revenge changes a person. It doesn't. It just reveals who you've always been, once the illusions are stripped away. She taught me that. When she placed her hand on that will, she thought she was cutting me out, but she was freeing me. Now, when I sign documents in my office, I see my reflection in the glass.